Alrighty, what's going on, world? This is Shawn B. I am here with Kevy Kev
Hee.
and Nate. We are Bad Dinner Guest, and we are doing a special broadcast for you guys tonight. We are doing essentially is what is a top 10 overall albums that are like favorite top 10 albums of all time. But we're going to break this up, make it a two-parter. So tonight we'll be doing 10 through 6, starting with 10 and going downward until we eventually reach number 1. So, yeah, I'm going to be a gentleman and let Nate, what do you got for number 10, man, on your favorite albums of all time?
Well, for me, for my 10th favorite album of all time, I've got to go with Houdini by the Melvins, which was released in 1993. Are either of you familiar with or even recognize the Melvins by chance?
I do know the Melvins. I just don't know that album offhand.
I am not familiar, Nate.
Well, basically they helped start like the grunge movement, godfather of grunge, although they're more like sludge rock, if that makes sense. But no, they're connected to, the Nirvana is like the big connection they have. Buzz Osborne, who's the front man for the Melvins, plays guitar. He actually introduced Dave Grohl to Nirvana, and that's how they ended up with Dave Grohl as the drummer there. But this album was actually their major label debut through Atlantic Records. They had 3 albums released through Atlantic Records. Everything else was independent label. That's just usually how they've done. But this is one of my favorite albums. My 10th favorite album, due to a lot of the songs on there are a lot of my favorite Melvin songs, such as "Hooch," which is the opener, "Lizzie Going Blind," which is actually a cover of a Kiss song, Joan of Arc's "Sky Pup," "Pearl Bomb," things along those lines. And actually on the song "Sky Pup," Kurt Cobain actually played some guitar on that song. He's given a co-production credit on 6 tracks. Overall, for a sludge album, for a Melvins album, it makes sense how it flows to me. And like I said, it just has a bunch of different songs on there that I like a lot, actually.
That's what's up, man. You learn something new every day. I had no idea that the Melvins were connected with Nirvana to that extreme. That's pretty awesome, dude. Like I consider myself a fan of Dave Grohl, and I do feel like he had a bigger role than people like to give him in Nirvana's success. So it's a pretty cool little story there, sir.
Oh yeah, because they're from the same area, Aberdeen, Washington.
Right.
Kurt Cobain and Christ Kovalesk, however you pronounce it. They're from the same area there. So,
yeah.
And actually, I believe, I think it was Dale Crover who's the drummer on this album. He's also been the drummer for Nirvana, but he's also the drummer full time for the Melvins. He played bass in the first band that Kurt Cobain was in, so there's a lot of connections. The Melvins are a big influence on Nirvana, and they're also a big influence on my favorite band, Tool.
Nice.
So I hear a little influence from this album, a little bit on Undertow, which I'm not necessarily going to talk about today, but it's where it starts for my favorite band, basically.
Gotcha. Heck yeah, man. My number 10 is Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness by Smashing Pumpkins.
Ooh, okay.
I love
I dig that. I am a little surprised.
Why is that? What surprises you, sir?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
I said, why are you surprised?
I mean, I've known you for a while here, and I know you're big into the rap game and things like that. And I know we just had a discussion recently. I just couldn't have ever pegged you for rocking down with some Smashing Pumpkins here.
Yeah, I got, like I was telling you the other day, I have a pretty wide range of musical taste. Like, in all honesty, if I was more gifted at playing instruments, I would probably be in a band. But I just so happen to be blessed with a decent enough voice and a good writing ability, so I do hip hop, and I do love hip hop. So I mean, it works out. But I appreciate multiple genres, and like I was telling you, my favorite genre overall is actually like funk and soul. Like, I love the old soul shit and funk and the whole like Motown era, and like that was my shit, man. But I definitely can get harder with the rock too, man. Like, I love the grunge genre. Like, I love, like, Alice in Chains and Smashing Pumpkins and all that shit too. So yeah, funny story, like, part of why this album is made my top 10, because as a kid, like, growing up in the 90s and stuff, like, my mom was big into music too, so she actually had this record, and I've heard it a lot growing up, and I never really understood a lot of the content until I got a little older, but I just popped like 20 favorite songs of all time. So in this album, with Bullet with Butterfly Wings, and there was a lot of joints on here I really liked. So yeah, it's number 10 for me, sir.
So speaking of surprises, you guys are going to be quite surprised with my top 10, I truly believe. And I'm starting off with one right off the gate, because I don't think, although once you hear it, it won't surprise you. The artist shouldn't surprise you here, but I imagine you're going to at least laugh at this album. So my number 10 here is the 1989 official soundtrack to the Batman motion picture, Tim Burton's Batman. Featuring solely Prince. And now this is the one that's in my top 10 that is biased, because this is in my top 10 because it's the first CD I ever had. And so I listened to it a lot as a child. I'm a huge Batman nerd. Anybody who's ever listened to any of Lou's comic episodes on our network knows that. I usually can only chime in when it's about Batman stuff. So I watched that movie a bunch. I had the album. I love, there's tracks like Trust, Party Man. Those are great. There are some really good songs in there by Prince. So that's my number 10. And it's only going to get weirder from here.
I like it, man. That's cool.
Okay. Actually, you're right. It does make sense that you would, you'd put that in your top 10 there. I am a little surprised, but I'm surprised in the sense that I wouldn't have guessed that. But I know a little bit of that album myself there. I don't listen to it too much, but anytime you have Prince on any sort of movie soundtrack or compilation or anything, you're definitely going to increase the quality of your album there, even if it's Prince's not so good stuff or average stuff. It's still going to be a lot better than, I would say, 90% of the musicians or bands that put music out.
Right.
No arguments here.
No, sir.
So who wants to do number 9? Do you guys want me to just lead it back off with number 9?
Yeah, that works.
So number 9, we'll stick with the weird and go with the 5th studio album of the Red Hot Chili Peppers, 1991's Blood Sugar Sex Magic.
Nice. That almost made my top 10.
Yeah.
It was tough. It was one of the ones I had to eliminate by process. So.
One of my favorite songs by the band. I had to. So again, almost some of my list here, admittedly, is because of the things that I listened to as a kid and growing up and a teenager as well. Huge. I couldn't leave the Red Hot Chili Peppers out of my top 10. So this is why they snuck in here at number 9. Blood Sugar Sex Magic. I preferred the old Red Hot Chili Peppers that were a lot more funky. And so that's Sir Psycho Sexy is on this album. Another track that I really love. Obviously the title track, Blood Sugar Sex Magic. It's a good change of pace. If you like the Red Hot Chili Peppers and you're unfamiliar of their older albums like the Uplift Mofo Party Plan and songs like True Real Men Don't Kill Coyotes, stuff like that. They have a lot of funky stuff that you've probably never heard of. So that's another reason I put this on my top 10.
Yeah. This album, you've already given it a great opener there. It's got one of my favorite Red Hot Chili Pepper songs, and Give It Away on it. It's typically if you're gonna say what's the Red Hot Chili Peppers best album, a lot of times people will end up picking this album. So that to me, knowing you, to me it does make sense there.
See, I actually am surprised to hear you say that because I thought Californication, and Shawn's over here thinking it too. Yeah, Shawn, go. Was that what you thought?
Yeah, I was just going to add on to what Nate said because honestly, that would be the album I would say if we were talking best Red Hot Chili Peppers albums. Overall, I would pick Californication, and plus that I have some sentimental ties to that from my childhood as well. That's one of the CDs I was given as a Christmas present and listened to it until it would skip because I played it so damn much. But Sex Magic had Under the Bridge on it, which is arguably my favorite song by Chili Peppers. So it is kind of tough, but I think as an overall product, I would give it to Californication.
Oh, there you go. So with that in mind, who did you have sitting at the 9 spot?
At 9 spot for me is actually, with it being an older artist and him being around since the 50s, I picked a compilation album just because I just can't narrow it down with this discography being so large as it is. I have the 20 all-time greatest hits by James Brown.
Nice. I'm actually glad you did that because I kind of cheated too. One of my top 10 is a live album, mainly because it's essentially a greatest hits. So I'll leave that teaser there for now. But yeah, so you're cool in my book. Nate, do you have any issues with because we didn't make any rules here. So for all you cats know, Queen's Greatest Hits is going to end up number 1 on my list. We don't know. I haven't finished ranking mine. I have my top 5. They're not in order yet.
I feel it.
No, I don't have any issues with that. I actually believe myself. I have 6 through 10. I actually have a singles compilation album myself. So
there we go. We all cheated. We all broke the rules we didn't make. I like it.
I just figured, especially with the artist, that's been around forever, and plus if they were before our time, I don't really see why we can't pick a compilation album. That was my logic. Why can't we pick it? It was still an album,
Right. And well, for instance, in my with David Bowie, my favorite artist, I couldn't really I like a lot of his albums, but overall, if I had to put one in my top 10, I would want it to just be a collection of all of his songs because he had so many freaking albums that it's mainly it's 2 or 3 songs a piece from each that you actually know until you dive down more into it. So yeah, I like this choice. Favorite James Brown track? What is it?
It would probably. Oh, that's tough. I'm just gonna go ahead and say Super Bad.
I got soul.
Super bad. Yep. It's between. I mean that, and I love Try Me, but Try Me was when he was with the Famous Flames, which was back in the 50s. But that was a really good song. Get Up Off That Thing. That was a good one. Sex Machine. I mean, I could go on and on, but yeah, I'd probably say Super Bad is my number one. Yes, sir. I'm sticking with it.
Nate.
Not bad. Not bad. Well, since we're traveling on down on we end up at my circle. For my ninth album here in my top 10, I have to go with Turn on the Bright Lights by Interpol.
Nice. There you go.
Interpol post-punk revival band, indie rock, whatever you want to call it. It's their debut album. Probably their most famous album. At the time, it was rated at 81 out of 100, which is absolutely good. But its track list, it's actually a wonderful track list. The opener is a song called Untitled, but it's probably my favorite song on the album with just how it plays and how it starts. It's also got one of their more famous songs, NYC. You also have Rolland, which is another really good song. If anybody listening out there, either you or Kev or Shawn there have listened to any Joy Division there. I know I've made you listen a little bit, Kev, but you listen to Rolland and you listen to Unknown Pleasures, that whole album for Joy Division. You see the similarities there.
Right.
Does this album have PDA on it?
It has PDA, yes.
Yeah, that's my favorite Interpol song. I love that song.
Also has Leif Erikson, which is a decently big song too. But just the whole album for myself, with Joy Division being one of my favorite bands, and this album it's pretty post-punk in a sense. I mean, you can tell the influences. It's a great album for a band that's still around, thankfully. So that's what I'd have to go with my number 9 there. Either of you familiar with him? I know you're familiar a little bit, Kev, but what about you, Shawn?
With Interpol?
Yeah.
I think I've heard like 2 of their songs in my whole life, so yeah, I'm not that familiar with them. But I
think. Did either of you ever see the movie House of Wax, the one with like Paris Hilton and
yeah,
the dude from One Tree Hill on it?
Yeah. Yep.
So the song, I believe, Rolland. The song is on that movie, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Let me double check on that here.
I'll probably have to just look for the song.
That's actually not where I heard it the first time, but it's on that House of Wax soundtrack, and it's actually in the movie as well.
Nice. Heck yeah, Nate. Well, what's your number 8, man?
So with my number 8 here, I've got to go back in time a little bit, not too far, but I've got to go with Lou Reed's Transformer.
Ooh.
His second studio album.
Okay.
Which is famous because it was produced by Mick Ronson and David Bowie.
Nice.
It's got probably my favorite Lou Reed song on it, Walk on the Wild Side, which has honestly some of the best bass lines I've heard. I guess some of my favorite bass lines. I can't really say, it's number 1 in terms of bass, but just when it opens up with that bass, you just, to me, I just have to stop and listen. But I have this album on vinyl, and honestly, the way it starts off with Vicious going through the whole, side A, and then starting off on side B with Makeup and Satellite of Love, I think they picked a way to put the songs together to create this experience.
Right.
For the song. And I will say, speaking about Walk on the Wild Side there, it's a very controversial song in a sense, because it touches on transsexuality, drugs, male prostitution, oral sex, because it basically talks about in a part where they talk about a prostitute, giving head and stuff. But it all goes back to that time period, because that's about when glam rock was going. And Lou Reed was involved with that a little bit, thanks to David Bowie. So it definitely has some suggestive material on it. But that's how I'd have to go with my number 8 album there.
Oh yeah, man.
That was a great choice. I like that. Shawn, do you want to go next with your number 8 or?
Yeah, my number 8 is actually Dirt by Alice in Chains. I love that album. Like, honestly, it was so hard for me to put these in order. Like, part of me feels like I should have ranked it a little bit higher, but I absolutely love the album. Like, I mean, it's one of those albums I can literally listen to it all the way through and not skip a record. So, I mean, it's definitely phenomenal in my eyes. If I had to pick a favorite song off of it, I'd probably just go with Down in a Hole. Because I do have some personal experiences that song ties into in my life, and I actually took I was attempted to take my own life once while listening to that song. So it kind of, that album reminds me of a darker place in my life, but I still love and appreciate it. And I love Alice in Chains. Well, I love Lane Staley, Alice in Chains, just to say. I don't really like the new age Alice, but old school Alice is my shit.
Have you listened to the new age, with William, whatever his name is?
Yeah, I don't like it.
There's certain songs where he sounds just like Lane Staley, to be completely honest. If you listen to the song Voices, I wouldn't have known that. I mean, I knew, but if I had listened to that without knowing who Alice in Chains was, and then you played, something like Rotten Apple or, Down in the Hole, I wouldn't have known the difference. So it's obviously never going to be Lane Staley, but,
right.
For a replacement due to death, I don't think they could have done a worse job, honestly.
Fair enough. I mean, I've run into those people occasionally that are like, "Oh my God, we love him," and then there's those people like me who are like, not really digging the guy, but I agree with you. They could have done a lot worse. They could have got Axl Rose, but I don't know. I can't get over it. Maybe I'm biased. More likely am to Lane Staley. Like I loved him as a vocalist, so I don't know. Maybe it's just that favoritism in play here, but I don't know. I definitely appreciate their older material a lot more.
No, because I love Lane Staley's voice. Personally, for me, I almost actually put Jar of Flies on my list, based only upon the opening song Rotten Apple with the bass line.
Right.
I'm big on bass personally, and when you put that album on, whether it's you're listening to listening it through your phone or on vinyl or whatever, just when that bass kicks in, it is just
right.
It's hard to describe the feeling for myself personally. But
speaking of Jar of Flies, though, my favorite song off the album was Nutshell. Like
that's a great one.
I love
too.
that fucking song. Yeah. So yeah.
Now, Kev, what's your 7th here, or 8th? Excuse me.
Well, this is the one that I think may catch you guys by surprise. My number 8 is my cheat album, so to speak. Well, at least one of for this list. This is the one that I cheated on a little bit. This is my only live album that I have on my list. I went with the 1998 release Garth Brooks Double Live, which was it's a compilation of live tracks from his world tour from 96 to 98. So this was again a situation where I grew up a huge Garth Brooks fan. I grew up in a little town called Farmersburg, Indiana, for those of you who don't know. So the guy that I am now is not the person that I started out as, put it that way. So I did listen to a lot of country music as a child, and Garth Brooks has been, as far as I would keep him in my top 5 of artists just because of how often I listened to his music growing up and how happy it made me to listen to it. And I did have the luxury of seeing him live, which was fantastic. He's full of energy still, even at this age, which is why I went ahead and put this album on here. I don't listen to it nearly as much as I used to, but for me, as far as all time, as far as my life goes, it definitely deserved it to be in my top 10.
Fair enough.
I don't even think I have the discs anymore. It's one of those situations I don't think they work. So yeah, love me some Garth.
I grew up on Garth too, man. Like I said, my mom was really into music, and she listened to everything but hip hop. So,
man, I'm the only one here talking that I did not grow up on Garth Brooks, or really any country for that matter.
Yeah, man, Garth, like Brooks and Dunn, Tim McGraw, all that stuff was definitely mixed into my childhood.
George Strait.
Yep, Reba. Has some Reba in there.
Okay.
I ain't mad about it.
I'm going to get you some George Strait there, Nathan. So do you guys want me to lead then with my number 7? Does someone else want to take that?
I mean, we might as well keep the pattern going, man.
All right. Well, you'll have to bear with me on the release date here, and this may or may not be one that either of you guys are familiar with. Actually, I have to double-check the album here. It's my number 7 is a Foster the People album, released in 2011, I do believe. That's what the name escapes me at the moment. I apologize. I'm having my Torches. There we go. Thank you. I could not remember because it's the only Foster the People album that I have, so I never really bothered on my iPod to remember the name. But so obviously it's worthy of my top 10. But this album, Shawn, you know most of these songs, even if you don't realize it, because we've worked together. And yeah, so this album has been played by me more than maybe any other album that I have, except for the fact that it's not an album. It was on my iPod.
That's the one that had pumped up kicks on it, right?
Yes, that is the one that is famous for pumped up kicks. Yes, and with that in mind, there is really, I think there was maybe one song in this entire album that I would skip. There really wasn't a bad song. It was all a lot of high energy, a lot of the good tempo. You know, it really made you move. It was great. It was great music to work to, especially in a kitchen. So, Foster the People, Torches, songs like Waste, Miss You. You already said Pumped Up Kicks. Yeah, so it's a good one. Nate, are you at all a Foster the People fan?
I can't say that I've listened to them that much outside of, this album. I mean, they were, upbeat, kind of thing, but not really my thing. Although I am a big fan of Hell on the Beat, personally. Also, I stumbled upon it one time. There's a remix. It's a remix by this guy named Butch Cassidy of Pumped Up Kicks, which was you've heard it?
Yeah, I actually it came out relatively soon after the original came out. I, at the very least, because I used to have that on my old iPod that was taken from me. So yeah, but it's a good one. Talking about the Butch Clancy, right?
Oh, shoot.
And we lost Nate. No.
No. I had something fall in my room here, and it kind of startled me a little bit.
You saw a murder just now, and it startled you? That's what I heard.
No, something fell in my room now, and it just startled me.
Oh, that's basically the same thing. So
don't call the cops, Nate. Nobody likes a snitch, even if you do see someone get murdered.
Well, too late. I already called 911.
But yeah, so does that put the spinner on me for number 7 now.
Yes, come on up.
My number 7 is actually by a band I don't know if either of you are familiar with. Kev, I think I've told you about them, but I don't know if you've ever really looked into them much. But the album is Half the City by St. Paul and the Broken Bones. Now they're a group out of Alabama, and they have a very soulful sound. Like it's a very old school type of feel to their music. You can tell they're influenced by people like Otis Redding and Al Green, of that, people of that sorts. The lead singer, whose name is Paul, he's the St. Paul of the group. He, like, the first time I heard this band, I'm not gonna lie, thought it was a black guy, and then you see him, and this dude looks like kind of like our buddy Lou. Like, he looks very similar to him. Like, they look like they could be cousins. So just his voice does not match him at all, but it's one of the most beautiful voices that I've heard in recent years. So like he sings with passion. You can tell like it's all coming from the heart. Whoever's writing their songs, I'm not necessarily sure who's their sole songwriter, if it's a group of them, but they have great lyrics. Like, 'cause a lot of it, a lot of their music, based off heartbreak and moving on and, like growing up, like struggling, stuff like that. So it's a lot of stuff that's relatable, which is very appealing to me. I like stuff that's, real and that I can definitely relate to. So Half the City is definitely in my top 10. And they're a fairly new band. That was their first album, and they just released their second album, Sea of Noise, which doesn't really hold a candle to Half the City, but I can still appreciate it because I really love the group. But their songs like The Glow, Torn Up, those are probably two of my favorite songs off Half the City. So yeah, it's definitely a band worth checking out for those of you who have never heard of them. If you're into like Al Green and, like I said, Otis Redding, that type of soul music, they're definitely they're definitely a new age group worth looking into. So number 7 for me.
Sounds interesting.
What's that, Nate?
I said they sound interesting.
Heck yeah.
What's your? I'll definitely be giving them a play here, sometime soon. Whenever I get some of this free time, everybody keeps talking about. Nate, what is your lucky number 7?
So this is it. I doubt that this is going to surprise you that it's on the list, but maybe you'll be surprised in the sense that you won't necessarily get it. But on my 7th here is the third studio album from Rage Against the Machine, The Battle of Los Angeles.
Oh, very nice.
Okay, there you go. Oh, nice, dude.
It's. I didn't know this for the longest time, but the album itself is heavily influenced by 1984 by George Orwell. Several of the songs, such as Testify, Sleep Now in the Fire, they include actual direct quotes from the novel. And then there's, some Orwellian terms in the lyrics themselves. But the album itself, I think, a lot of people will know Evil Empire or, even their name album, especially their name album, which has the famous photo of the Buddhist monk in South Vietnam setting himself on fire, self-immolation. I guarantee both of you have seen that picture. You may not know what it was, but I can guarantee you have seen that picture in one way or another. But this album, I think, is their most complete album personally, in terms of quality. I mean, especially when you lead off with Testify. Tom Morello is probably one of my top 5 favorite guitarists of all time. And just the way he plays guitar with the sounds he makes out of his guitar. I mean, you sound like you're listening to an alien on occasion. But just the hardness of the album. I mean, it's rap metal. however you want to call it. And then Zach De La Rocha's voice, I mean, it just complements the music and the message that they're trying to get out there. So I personally think it's the most complete album they put out. Now, I would like to give a honorable mention shout out to Renegades, which is their album. They do covers of a bunch of songs, and
Make the Renegades
just a phenomenal album of covers as well.
Yeah, that was a great one too. I did not know that about the Orwell stuff, but the to go along with your sidebar, my favorite. I remember the day I didn't realize that for a while in my youth. I didn't realize that Renegades was all covers. When I heard some singles off of it, I did not realize the Renegades of Funk was a cover until much later in life when I finally heard that funky 70s version of it. And I will say they improved on that song big time. It's just my little side note about that. Rage, definitely a great band, and they kill. That's something great when you take someone's art and you actually make it better. I think that's really, it's what justifies you doing the cover of it for me.
Right.
So yeah, Nate, that was 7 for you, right? So I guess you have to lead us off with, you got to take us home.
So number 6 on my list here, and the final one for this first part of the two-parter. I've got to end up with my singles compilation album. It's called Substance by Joy Division, my second favorite band. Now, I'll list off the track listing here, just to give an idea of where these songs come from. For the hold on, sorry. The first couple of songs actually that start off, one's called Warsaw, and then the second one is called Leaders of Men, and those are actually from their first LP called An Ideal for Living. Now, I don't know if I've ever worn this shirt around here, but that album actually has a Hitler Youth drummer boy on the cover drumming. Now, I don't know if are either of you familiar why they're called Joy Division?
No.
Yes, but I will let you tell it because you know.
Okay, so there's this book called The House of Dolls, and then there's this section within the book where there's this prostitution division of the Nazi army called Joy Division. Because at one time they were called Warsaw due to David Bowie's song, and now the name is escaping me. Do you know what the name of that song is? It's like Warsaw something.
It's not off the top of my head. No, we'll have to look that up here in a second. But yeah, please continue your Joy Division story, because this is something that is a funny little tidbit in music history.
So yeah, they changed their name to Joy Division due to the fact that there was actually a punk band in London called the Warsaw Pact. So they didn't want to, keep the same name, so they ended up with this. They will feature heavily within my top 5 in the next episode. But this album, the next songs are they come with Digital, Auto-Suggestion, which is, it's okay. That song's okay. That's probably my least favorite on the album. One of their more famous ones, Transmission, which, as they progressed in their career, their very, very short career, because they were only around 1977 to 1980 before the lead singer committed suicide, who was Ian Curtis, and then they changed their name. But they have a lot of influence because they helped start post-punk genre. They also are kind of considered proto-gothic rock due to the style of music and the lyrics behind it. One quote that I always saw that I thought was quite interesting when I saw this band was they took emotions and put it into the music, like how they played the emotions in the music, which is how the style of post-punk is compared to, gothic rock or punk, because punk was big then, because the band actually formed due to going to see a Sex Pistols concert in 1976, actually.
Yeah, my boys.
Big fans of Sex Pistols. I know that you are. But anyway, on Substance, it also comes with She's Lost Control, which is a song having to do with a client he had at his daytime job, having an epilepsy attack. Also comes with Dead Souls, Atmosphere, which I think is a funeral song. If you've ever listened to it, I don't know that Shawn has. I'm pretty sure I've made you listen to it, Kev.
That is correct.
It just the way the music plays, not necessarily the lyrics. It sounds like a song you would play at a funeral. And also their most famous song, Love Will Tear Us Apart, which kind of it's their most radio-friendly hit, but it also, it discusses his failing marriage at the time. And it also comes with a bunch of bonus tracks on the LP as well, and the CDs, including Coma Tino, No Love Lost, Failures Glass, From Safety to Wear, Novelty These Days. It's just all their singles, whether they were released independently or released from the albums, and then combine them all into a compilation album. It's a phenomenal album, to say the least, in my eyes. I'm biased though, with it being my second favorite band.
Yeah, we will argue until the end of time over Shadow Play, because I will argue until I can't anymore that the Killers did it better. But I know that you will do the same in honor of your boys, the Joy Division.
We also argue about Dead Souls too, because Nine Inch Nails did their version, and you rock the Nine Inch Nails one more so than the Joy Division one. And just to talk about that song, I love the Nine Inch Nails version too. I just think, personally, the fact that it's been dressed up in industrial, rock form, I think it kind of loses its edginess and melancholy, depressionness aspect to the song itself.
Fair enough, and I could relate to that. And part of the reason I like the Nine Inch Nails version more is most likely just that Trent Reznor is my spirit animal, so it's a bit of a favoritism thing there. So we'll just argue about that until we're too old to hear each other. So this brings us to Shawn now, right?
Number 6. Yeah.
Number 6 for Shawn. Which, I just want to say real quickly, Nate, there's more Joy Division coming on this list, isn't there? There's no way they topped out at 6.
Oh no, they're way up in the top 5.
They're all up in that 5.
Yeah, they're. Number 6 for me is some artists that both of you may not be too familiar with, but the album is 90059 by J-Rock, and it's actually, the album came out last year, and it blew my fucking mind as far as, because I had known of J-Rock. He had an album they released when he was with Strange Music called Coming Home, which was a good album. There's a song on there I really liked from him, that had me following him for a little bit. But then he dropped this album, and the first song I heard off of it was called Gumbo, and it just instantly made me a fan. So I was like, holy shit, this dude is a lyricist. He's from California, and you will find with me over time that as far as hip hop goes, I do lean a lot more towards West Coast and Southern hip hop. I'm not huge on a lot of East Coast stuff. And I do love some East Coast rappers like Jadakiss and Jay-Z and shit like that. But as far as my overall taste go, I do lean a lot more towards the West Coast and South the third coast, as they like to call it, sound. So J-Rock 90059 really is an album that I play at least one song a day from, whether I'm driving to work or from work or whatever. It gets love from me on the daily, damn near. So it's definitely worth checking out. A song I do recommend for new listeners who have never really listened to J-Rock, I would say Gumbo would be one that has a really dope sample in it. The hook is just super sick. Also like The Message, which is a deeper song. Kind of gives you a little bit of a reflection of him as a person and the situation he came from and how it made him who he is. Yeah, I really like that. Vice City has, because J-Rock's a member of Black Hippie, which is him, Kendrick Lamar, Schoolboy Q, and Ab-Soul. That's like a little group. And I, by far, think J-Rock is the best in that group. I even would argue and say he's better than Kendrick, which a lot of people would argue against me, but not saying Kendrick is, weak by any means, but J-Rock is just a very strong and raw talent. Like, his delivery is very appealing to me because I like that more raspy, deep type of delivery. I'm not into, like, the squeaky Mickey Mouse sounding rappers. Like, that's not really my thing.
Ooh.
So, yeah, the little Wayne wannabes and shit. So, yeah, man. So J-Rock 90059 beat a zip.
Now, see, I was a little disappointed because when you first started saying this, I thought you were talking about Trailer Park Life. I thought you were talking about my boy J-Rock, J to the R-O-C, J to the R-O-era. The skilladilla pace. That's a guy who I want to see the Trailer Park Boys put together enough. At least just give us like a mixtape. Maybe it's only one or two new tracks, but then just little clips from all of the songs you've ever seen him do in the show. That's my my little take on that. Is also listen to that J-Rock.
I love that J-Rock as well.
My favorite, the track I would suggest would be "Can't Not Be Feeling This." It's a good one. Look that one up. So are we on me now?
Yeah, number 6.
Is this time for?
Heads up! After you give your number 6, I do have a couple honorable mentions I want to throw.
You would. You can't. I'm never doing top 10 lists with you again because you just can't.
What the fuck?
You never do them, man. We're gonna have to do like top 14 lists with Shawn, and then he's still gonna have fucking 6 honorable mentions. It's
no, dude. No,
it's
you're gonna have to
malarkey.
do like a top 30, and then he's gonna have another 30 honorable mentions.
Hey,
it's gonna be a list of. It's gonna be an encyclopedia of every album.
You can't do these type of things with someone who loves and breathes music, and they expect me not to like have a little extra one I gotta throw in there. That's just how it is, man.
I will combat that by saying you also did this for best sports movies.
I did not.
Yes, you did. We both had honorable mentions.
Oh.
So yeah.
Well. Okay.
Right. I see. No, I'm just the honorable mentions. Of course, obviously, I'll allow it. But okay, so my number 6, bring this bad boy home. From on my end anyway, is this probably most likely won't be the last time you hear this band on my list, if you want to call it a band. My number 6 album is the 2010 release Plastic Beach by the Gorillaz. Yeah. Yeah, you guys know this. Nate and Shawn know that the Gorillaz are. It's a tie for me. David Bowie and Gorillaz. It's a 1 and 1A scenario. I can't really pick between the two as far as a favorite. And this, in general, this album did very well in the alternative world. It debuted at number 2 on the UK album chart. So it did really well there. It had 4 singles hit the charts. If you guys remember Stylo with Bobby Womack, Superfast Jellyfish, which is a song that one of the weirder ones people might not have heard of. This was an interesting fact. I heard that Superfast Jellyfish, which if you have never heard that song, listen to it. You may hate it. I'm going to be honest with you. You might listen to it and get 30 seconds in and be like, this song sounds like an acid trip that I don't want to be a part of. It hit number 28 on the UK dance chart, which I thought was weird because I don't see how you dance to that. I was like, what Clockwork
Seriously?
Orange kind of milk drinking clubs were playing this song? Like, I don't understand. Melancholy Hill and Rhinestone Eyes also reached the charts on this. But to just finish off the actual track list, I'm not going to go all the way through because there's 16 songs on this. That's another thing that I consider when I'm looking through these is, did you get your money's worth? And when you have 16 tracks, and as I'm looking, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 10 out of the 16 are songs I absolutely love and wouldn't skip if they were on shuffle or on my radio. So to me, that makes it a big win. I forgot Most Def was in Stylo as well. That's fun. But yeah, so if you guys out there that aren't Gorillaz fans or any of the Gorillaz fans that are anticipating next year's release, go back and listen to Plastic Beach again. One last cool thing, I almost forgot to mention this. The other thing I love about this album is every music video, there's a music video for every song, and essentially this album is a movie. So it's really cool. You just play it from the beginning, all the songs. So that's something else that, I mean, they just went above and beyond in getting this thing produced and put together as a complete work of art, in my opinion. I'm surprised I didn't put it higher, but these list things are hard for me. Speaking of not being able to make lists, I now hand it to Shawn for his honorable mentions.
I just have to, like, my honorable mentions for these are just out, like, and granted, these aren't my only honorable mentions. There'll be some for part 2 as well.
Don't worry, we've got more.
But yeah, my top 10 is actually going to round out to about my top 16. But anyways, my 3 honorable mentions for part 1 of this is 16 Stone by Bush. I had a really hard time not putting that in my top 10 because there's no sex in my violence. Kevin's so adorable. I wish you guys could just look at him. Just look at him. The little nose
But
of
they
his.
can't. And I love it.
It's all right, but I am.
It's over here stroking my chin hairs. Okay, honorable mention number 2.
AM by Arctic Monkeys.
Oh.
I love that album. There's really not one song on the album I don't like, so I had to definitely show it some love. And last but not least, I'm going to have to roll with Issues by Korn. That was an album from my childhood that I just constantly thought about shooting at my school, and I would listen to it on my way to my school, so I never did it.
And there go any future sponsorships. Just like that. Just
no,
gone to the.
Hey, you can't judge grown man Shawn off an 8-year-old Shawn, okay?
You say that now, you just wait. I'll save this. We're doing an episode of 60 Grit tonight. I'll leave it alone, but I'll save. You've got me prepared for it now. I'm fired up.
Man.
Hey, since Shawn did a extra honorable mention, I got my 16 list of honorable mention albums here too. I can go through.
Yeah. You guys both did
I'm
bonus work, didn't
I'm
you?
just kidding about that.
Let's hear them.
No, it was a joke just to make.
No, you
Shawn
said it. No,
here.
I want at least one honorable mention from you now, Nate. I gave J-Rock. Come on, you got to give the people what they want.
Yeah, that's really why I did it, because Kevin did it.
Always.
One honorable mention I would have to give would probably be. Let me look it up here. For some reason it's escaping me, but it's got my favorite song of them on there. Is it this one? It should be this one. Yes, Meat is Murder by The Smiths would be my honorable mention.
You said you want to murder a bitch?
No, Meat is Murder.
Also, yes. No. Shawn has gotten us from no sponsorships ever to no fly list in a span of 45 seconds. I like that honorable mention there, Nate.
hey, you know what? Shawn may not get us some sponsorship, but I can get us some sponsorship from PETA here based on this album.
Go for it. My honorable mention is whatever song Sarah McLachlan sings at those sad puppy dog commercials, The Arms of the Angels. Whatever album that's on, that's my honorable mention.
I won't allow it.
And on that note, we should probably commence to the wrapping it up here. Which is
Wrap it up.
not normally something I say, but I know Nate's got an episode of Shadow Play tonight, so he's got to go get prepared for that. You want to give him a little teaser or anything? Give me a little tease. I'll be listening.
My little tease here is I'm going to go in depth on some experiences, and I'm going to be discussing another historical place in the books here. So, tune in, learn some history, read about some experiences, and, not get possessed by ghosts at the same time.
Fingers crossed over here, buddy. We've got, as I mentioned, we've got an episode of 60 Grit tonight. The airwaves are going to be packed on our end, so we've got a lot of content coming out for the people this weekend, so make sure you following us on Twitter or Facebook, just so you can, or go ahead and just subscribe on YouTube, SoundCloud, whatever, however you want to listen to it. Yeah. We're all over this place.
With me being
no, sorry, I just threw Shawn. I threw Shawn off his game. That's my fault, people.
Anyways, for those who don't know me, Shawn, not only a member of Bad Dinner Guests, but I also help run and operate Replay or Recycle, which is a music review blog. You can follow us on Twitter at Replay or Recycle. But just so you know, tonight I will be working on a special feature I'm going to do annually. I'm going to review my 5 favorite hip-hop albums that were released the previous year. So I'll be doing my 5 favorite albums from 2015 tonight. So I should have that up for you sometime around midnight tonight. So for those who want to check it out, you can visit our blog at Blogspot. Just go to replayrecycle.blogspot.com to check that out. So,
all right, I definitely will be giving it a read. You can also find links to the blog on our blog at badinterguests.blogspot.com. So we're one big happy family here. And with that, I will say my good nights. And Nate, you want to say goodnight to the people, Nate, Shawn? I'm gonna just leave it to you guys.
Nighty night, folks.
Peace out, hombres.
Watch out for that butt.